When you think of drinking culture in the Philippines, you think of San Miguel, Red Horse, Tanduay, Emperador, tequila, and if you're that desperate for alcohol, gin. But one drink that you may not know of that should be included in this rotation is tapuy, or Philippine rice wine. Rice wine may instantly make you think of Japanese sake or Korean makgeoli. But after living here in the Philippines, I realized that we make our own version too, and it's called tapuy. But before I dive into what tapuy is and how it's made and why it's important as like a Filipino beverage, well, I need to first dive into how sake and makgeoli are made. Sake is made throughout Japan and is made from 4 ingredients: rice, water, mold, and yeast. And aside from these variables, the skill of the brewer can have a huge impact on the final product. Some of the factors that they control are the brewing method and how much they polish the rice. A friend who's a sake sommelier even says that sake is 80% brewing technique and 20% rice, which is opposite to wine, which is 80% dependent on the grape and 20% on the brewer. So that was basically like a small gist of how sake is made and what variables are involved in it. But on the other hand, we have Korean rice wine or makgeoli. And while it is made in a similar way as sake, it actually has some of its own peculiarities as well. And that's that, one, additives can actually be added to makgeoli. In this case, it's peach flavored, so it's not a natural taste. Other factors to consider for makgeoli as well is that it actually can be made from non-rice products, such as grain or barley, and that's like a huge difference when you compare it to sake. But basically this is like a whole scientific process with a whole bunch of variables and blah blah blah. Let me just run down this quick diagram I made that will give you the knowledge that you need to understand how rice turns into this beverage that you get drunk off of. So you got your rice, and then basically if I'm gonna make this like a chemical formula, you add some sort of mold. Is that a D? I think so. How do I draw? So you have rice plus mold, okay, and then so you have your starch here. You know, I'm not an artist by any means. So okay, I'm gonna redo this. Okay, so this is basically the rundown for how to ferment rice into alcohol, aka how you make tapuy 101. So step 1, you got your rice plus mold and or some sort of starter to help catalyze the reaction. Damn, super sciencey. With these two things, you then get starch. Why? Because rice on its own, you can't really get alcohol out of it. You need this mold slash starter to kickstart the reaction and give you the products you need to make the alcohol. So step 2, the starch, that's the intermediate product. You got mold and the mold's enzymes right here, mold enzymes. And together this party causes the starch to turn into what we want, sugar. This is basically when the party starts, because with sugar and yeast, time, it's the most important part, guys. It takes a lot of time to make alcohol. Chad the scientist, guys. So that's basically the gist of how our East Asian siblings, Japan and Korea, make rice wine. But let's bring it back and talk about how we make it here in the Philippines for tapuy.
Parang karne na sarili ko. Sa asin paminta ay ibabat, laga na madik sarap, ulang pasarapin at timplahin bago masakawan ito ilipat. Talsik mantika, ingat, ihanda ang takin. Napakasarap talaga ng porchak.
I first met Ken through a mutual friend who told me that he distributes tapuy, or Philippine rice wine. To learn more about and see a cultural beverage, I knew I had to see how it's made. So I met Ken in Pagudpud in Ilocos Norte. The story of how Ken's business, Proudly Promdi, started is an interesting one, but it basically began because he saw the potential and value in tapuy as a cultural beverage. He tells me it is drank for rice harvest festivals, birthdays, and fiestas, which is coincidentally how he found out about it. However, from this one experience, he was able to show Manang Ernanie, the maker, that even though it is a product from the province, tapuy is delicious, desired, and important for people to know about. Basically, you cook your malaki rice, spread it on a bilao or like a bamboo plate thing, sprinkle some bubod or yeast on top, flip it, sprinkle some on the bottom again, and then you put it into an airtight container so that it can party for X amount of time. And then after, let's say, 3 or 4 months, the alcohol will be released from fermentation, and then from there, you separate the mushy rice that's released all its alcohol from the actual tapuy that you drink, and you bottle it here.
This is my traditionalist bubod. Ito lang po yung main ingredients ng tapuy.
Okay.
Wala na pong iba. So ito lang ang pinahawakan pag gumagawa ko ng tapuy. Yeah. Puro hanggang sa pagluto. Siyempre hindi nawakan ni sir. Ginamit niya to. Pag nalagyan dyan, ibabaliktad natin to para malagyan din sa
Ilalim.
ilalim. For fermentation hanggang sa maging ganto.
This is the fresh one.
Yeah.
So it's really pure.
Wow.
So it's
It just like
that-
soaked up all the alcohol.
Yes, the longer na nasa bote, nag-change rin yung lasa. The fresh ones are lighter.
Yeah.
This one, it's a bit, you can taste, mas matapang.
What's the translation of tapang?
Strength.
Strength.
Potency.
Potency. Yeah, this one definitely tastes like a lot more boozy. So.
Naimas.
Naimas.
Masarap in
Masarap in Ilocano
Ilocano.
sa imas.
So now that you've kind of seen how it's made from scratch, it's a very simple process as you can see. I kind of want to go back and contextualize tapuey in this whole scheme of rice wine. So being the former scientist that I am, I've made this diagram that will basically show you all the variables involved in the whole rice wine process and how tapuey fits into it, because at the end of the day, that's the most important part since it's a Filipino product. And from these different variables, you'll kind of get an idea of how the flavor differs as well. So this is the rice wine process and variables diagram. On the top, you have the breakdown of the key components in the process of rice wine production. So the rice, the bacteria, brewing, fermentation, and the most important part, the turn up, aka when you can just get drunk. And then under each component, for example, under fermentation, you have each of the corresponding variables that basically influences it. And then at the bottom right here, as you can lovely see, each rice-based alcohol, tapuey, makgeoli, or sake is marked with each variable that they are influenced by. So for example, you can see that sake in all components, rice, bacteria, brewing, etc. has the most variables in its product, while tapuey has the least. But this doesn't mean that tapuey isn't as complex. It's just that we don't know much about brewing techniques peculiar to each province or brewer. So taking for example the brewing method component, as you can see here, makgeoli can have additives. Sake can have special brewing techniques to, get more natural yeast in there. Totally different conversation. And tapuey doesn't. But there could be other methods applicable only to tapuey, and all these different particularities translate to a vast variety of flavors. Because the sake industry is big and has the widest flavor profile, we'll jump into a sake flavor wheel so you can kind of get a sense of how these particular aspects translates to how sake tastes. Here's the flavor wheel of sake. Basically, all I have to say is that depending on how the brewer makes it, you can get this many flavors and textures as well. You can have sake that's sweet, fruity, acidic, thick, non-filtered, savory, gamey, roasted and smoky. And from this flavor wheel, you can see that each category has specific flavor profiles that it can be categorized under. Just from this, you can kind of get a sense of how diverse sake flavor is. And while I can only speak on behalf of two different kinds of tapuey, this one in particular is sweet and viscous and kind of savory too. And when you're reminded how much untapped potential tapuey has as a local Philippine beverage, you can kind of imagine maybe in the future we can fill out our own tapuey flavor wheel. One that's smoky, I have tried a smoky tapuey before, and one that is sweet, and one that is maybe more savory. The possibility is there. But for now, in the meantime, you can drink this on the rocks, or you can even mix it to a cocktail. A lot of friends I've given to love it, Japanese friends I've given it to love it, and some friends even say it kind of tastes like Chinese Shaoxing wine. And importantly, because it is fermented and not distilled, it will not get you blind. So give it a shot. If you want to buy some, just hit me up, and the next time you're thinking about getting turned, get turned off tapuey. Ken says that the hangover isn't even that bad. And don't forget to check out the information box down below where you can find out a Medium article where I basically just describe and write about tapuey and how it's made in more in-depth detail, and also where you can find out more about my friend Ken. By going all the way up north to see how tapuey is made, I basically got in touch with my culture, an entirely new aspect that I never would have before. So the next time you're at a palengke, try some tapuey. You might end up liking it.
Salamat, Manang.
Thank you!
Salamat, Manang.
Okay, so this is tapuey, guys. Philippine rice wine. Gonna give some to my friend to try drinking.
Who are you talking to?
It's for my vlog. All right, Jake. This is Philippine. Shh. This is Philippine rice wine. This is made of glutinous rice in the Philippines.
That's a strong smell.
But compared to the sake you had 3 days ago,
They smell pretty similar to me. Yeah.
like very savory.
Soy sauce, yeah, savory. I'm a little intimidated. Whoa, that's sweet.
Yeah, right. It's sweet, right?
Whoa.
It's sweet, like it's savory, but it's sweet AF.
Whoa.
It's thick. Say it's thick, Jake. Validate me.
It is quite thick. Yeah, I wasn't prepared for how sweet it would be.
Right?
Based off how it smells.
Do you like sweet drinks?
I do.
Would you drink this again?
I would. Yeah, it's like sweet, and then like the aftertaste is kind of savory.
Right, so it's like, it's pretty balanced, you know, it's pretty complex for being only made of like 3 ingredients.
Yeah. There's a lot going on in my mouth.
Right? It's hype. Philippines is hype, guys. There's like one for every province, man.
At ang laki ng
Imagine
bibig ko.
that.
Sa asin paminta ay ibabat, laga na magic sarap, ulam pang sarapin, at timplahin bago masakawali to.